In 1991, he decided to do a homecoming tour. And my dad asked me to come and work and be an assistant, like a road manager on the tour. So the idea of being able to go to South Africa for the first time was exciting, because for me, it was like my whole identity. And so I went. And I also went with the idea of like, I'm gonna get to surf, because those laws don't exist anymore. But those laws had only been in non-existence for like 4 or 5 months. But in my young, like 19-year-old brain, like I'm just figuring everything's gonna be okay. And when I got there, it was just instant smack in the face. I remember being at a gym in a small town called Petersburg, going over to the bench and asking someone if they were done, and a guy looking at me and going, "Fuck you, you fucking kafir," and just getting up and walking away, which would be the equivalent of "fuck you, nigga." You know, I remember seeing a guy who was accused of stealing someone's purse in the street being beaten by 4 or 5 white men, who then called someone to go and get a truck, and then throwing him into the back of this pickup truck. This is in downtown Johannesburg, and continuing to beat the shit out of him, and you could hear the blood-curdling screams.
One other thing that happened for me was down in Jeffreys Bay. We went to the pub to get some food, and Dane Kiloa, one of my favourite surfers, he wasn't allowed into the pub. Those sort of things, you know, like just don't include people with dark skin. That's the way it was. Even one of my friends from Maroubra, Steve Wilson, he wasn't allowed in certain areas, only because he just had that appearance. This stuff was going on all the time.
And finally, getting to Durban and being so stressed out by what I was experiencing that all I wanted to do was get in the water. And just like walking and my heart beating at 1,000 miles an hour, and then getting out to the end of the pier, finding the balls to jump off and into the lineup, and there were 4 kids out there, white kids, and they're just looking like I could have come down from space, man. And set comes, they let it pass. I caught like the second wave, and it was a left, and I just remember just feeling like I was flying. I did like 2 turns and a snap and I kick out, and when I look to the back, the kids are just like, ah! Suddenly, like these kids that had never seen me surf before were the homie. We had this, like we talked about trestles and like, what, you surf lowers all the time? Like, it was crazy. And so for the next 3 days, like every day I would go meet these kids and I'd surf, and gradually over the course of the days, people would start to relax and they'd wave at me. And I started to feel a little safer. On the 4th day, the waves were pumping. The swell had come up. I go to my same place at the end of the pier, and as I'm stowing my little board bag, I hear, "Aye, don't you know you're committing an illegal act?" And I turn around, and this giant, like 6'2", big Afrikaner policeman has his sjambok out, like a nightstick, and he's in the backswing, about to come down on my head. I remember I was holding my board and I just screamed. I was like, "I'm an American! I'm an American!" And I went to shield myself from getting hit. And he was like, "Prove it! Prove it, you fucking kafir, prove it!" Everyone in the water is yelling up at the cop to leave me alone. And he finally decides to let me go, but tells me that I'm not jumping off of that jetty. By this time, a crowd had gathered, and I had to gather my stuff up and leave in humiliation. It was the most humiliating, incomprehensible experience of racism that I had yet had to date in my life.